Give people what they want. College basketball transfer content. Decision day is coming soon.
David, are you all right?
I'm studying for the bar 8 hours a day. I just figured out how to get my entire family to Fayetteville for graduation, and I'm trying to go to the gym again. And I got sick last week. So,
You didn't answer my question.
well, DJ Wagner's coming to Arkansas. AJ Hoggard's going to Vanderbilt, and Trevin Brazil might be going back to college.
And we're talking about that and more today on the Hoop Southbound Show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Sorry about missing last week. I was very sick and actually had no voice from throat pain. And in case you didn't know, trying to record a podcast without a voice is kind of hard. So still recovering from whatever I had. Doctor just told me it was some virus, but at least I can talk today. So let's talk hoops.
Today we're going to recap what you guys have missed since the last show in the transfer portal. And next week we'll be doing some NBA draft previews to get you back on our schedule. So let's jump into it.
Yeah, there has been a lot that's happened since the last time we talked. So let's start by taking a look at the top 10 available in the transfer portal. You got small forward Jameer Watkins, who's still in, Cameron Christie, Coleman Hawkins out of Illinois, Jalen Wells, JT Toppin, Wooga Poplar, Trevin Brazil, who just took his name out of the NBA draft, Arthur Kuluma, I believe is how you pronounce that, Chris Ledlam, and combo guard Ken Evans out of Jackson State makes the top 10. The top 10 list now extends into the top 120 players in the transfer portal. So most of the top players have made their commitments, and it will be significant news anytime a top 150 player makes their commitments from here on out. Maddie, any of those names really just stand out to you?
Yeah, I'm going to keep my eye on Coleman Hawkins. There are a few SEC squads that could use a good, experienced power forward to fill some of those gaps. We saw some teams make a few commits this week, but there's still a few that could definitely benefit from somebody like that who has some experience in the next level of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, certainly. And then I've also got a couple of guys I'm looking out for. Coleman Hawkins is a great name. I'm with you on that. I'm curious to see where he goes. I'm with you. I've heard the rumors on the SEC squads as well. We'll see. For everybody else, I'm surprised JT Toppin's name's still in there. I would expect him to make a move at this point. We're going to see what happens there. Wooga Poplar's also a name I've heard a lot of rumor about as well. So it's about him potentially coming to an SEC team. I've heard Arkansas's name thrown out there. I'm not sure what the latest and greatest is on everything. Again, I'm studying for the bar right now. But like, yeah, it's a wild time. There's some good names still out there and some teams that could definitely use a lot of these forwards, really, who are in that top 10 list. Trevin Brazil, I'm really interested in today making that announcement that he was going to come out of the NBA draft. No idea what's going to happen there. Very intrigued. I thought the NBA might be the better move for him, but maybe he did not get the feedback he was looking for from the combine. So we'll see what happens next with the situation with Trevin Brazil.
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about those top 10, but let's jump into some of those top 150 names that did commit this past week that we missed and the week before that we didn't cover. But let's start with Arkansas. Coach Cal has picked up another name from his former team in DJ Wagner.
Yeah, we were waiting and waiting and we were waiting. And finally, DJ Wagner is indeed a Razorback. I don't know why it took so long, but he is now a Hog, and Arkansas really needed someone who can run a true point. He is a combo guard, but he played a lot of point at Kentucky last season. This also adds a lot of flexibility in the design for the backcourt for Arkansas. You can run out a lot of different styles of play out of your backcourt. Now, that being said, Arkansas has got a lot of last year's Kentucky's team on this year's Arkansas's team that's coming in. I'm not exactly in love with that. But it's checking a lot of boxes that Arkansas needs to put together to put a quality team under Cal's first year. And again, last year's Kentucky team wasn't bad. They didn't play bad in SEC play, certainly. They just didn't meet the expectation. Like that's the thing that everyone needs to keep in mind is that like, you'll have this Kentucky conversation and be like, oh, Kentucky stunk last year. Kentucky finished second or was it second or tied for third or whatever in the SEC. They had a good conference schedule. They only took really one bad loss in regular season play to UNC Wilmington, and they got beat by Oakland in the NCAA tournament. That's what happened. And we said at the beginning of the season last year, Cal will be defined at Kentucky by how this season's postseason went. Here we are. And now suddenly, if you talk to any Kentucky fan, Kentucky had a bad year last year. The team stunk. Everything else, like these guys aren't bad, talented players or anything like that. And I think DJ Wagner was a player that I like. And there's a lot of upside. If Wagner can get to where he was supposed to be potential wise this next season, sometimes it takes a guy an extra year to grow. And Wagner was probably good enough to make the draft this season. But it's like we were talking about a couple weeks ago. NIL has allowed a lot of guys who would be a second round draft pick to come back to college and make better money or just as good money and redraw their name for next year's draft. So DJ Wagner's a very good pickup for Arkansas. I'd like to see Arkansas add a little bit more depth in the front court next, particularly at the 4 spot. Maddie, any thoughts?
I really like this ad. It's one, like you said, we've kind of been waiting on. There's been rumors ever since Cal came over here of the players that were going to come and who wasn't. But one of the big benefits I see in this is with these players following their coach, especially when it's Coach Cal, they're already going to have some chemistry to build on with some players that have transferred to follow as well. Obviously, they are going to have to build chemistry with the players that are coming in that they haven't played with before, but they already know Cal's coaching style. He knows what makes these players tick. And then you've got this outside experience coming in that they're going to be able to learn and gain more experience from in what sounds like a less hostile environment at Arkansas than they were dealing with at Kentucky.
It's definitely different standards. But I will say Kentucky fans didn't go after the players or anything. Like the pressure was on Cal, at Kentucky. So like, yeah, I don't know how much impact that would have on players. The thing was with me last season, we say it a million times over, freshman, freshman, freshman. That was a very young team, and young players make mistakes and sometimes don't perform in the moments they need to perform. It's exactly what happened to that Oakland game. So, there's a lot of talent coming to Arkansas. A lot of talent who didn't live up to expectations for Kentucky, but they've got another year under their belt now. So I'll be very interested to see the growth for some of these guys from year 1 to year 2 under Calipari jump to Arkansas. But I think you got to go somewhere else to go find that number 4 guy we were talking about or whoever you're going to be bringing into the squad next.
Yeah,
I know
it looks like there's a lot left in the
there's not,
transfer
no, no,
portal, so
there's not anything else to go pick out of the Kentucky tree at this point. So
all right, let's switch over and talk about Auburn. The Tigers added Miles Kelly out of Georgia Tech to their transfer class. Kelly was an honorable mention on the All ACC team, scored 1,057 points during his tenure at Georgia Tech, which ranks 41st among their all-time scoring list.
constant scoring threat coming to Auburn. He is a little inconsistent with the 3, but he can put up 15 or 16 points a game, no problem. And he already's coming from a high level of competition over in the ACC. He also rebounds positionally well and is on the larger side for a guard at 6'6". Another thing I'm noticing about Auburn's team next year and what they're putting together, this team is going to be extremely experienced. I mean, unreal. I don't know if I've seen an exact roster like this, and if it was under Eric Musselman. I don't know. Just because of what they've got. Everyone but the incoming freshmen are seniors or grads. That's a lot of players who have had some time playing college basketball. And then a lot of these guys have already played together for a minute. So this is really intriguing, adding another big time threat out of the top 150 for Auburn and someone who could put up a lot of points. I like it. I think Auburn's looking like they're going to be a very solid squad next season, especially with all this experience they've got.
Yeah, for sure. Another solid added to the list. with Auburn here. You've got to think with more capable talent around him, we're going to see Kelly thrive with Auburn's offensive sets, especially when you take a look at their roster and the majority of their turnover was from that scoring aspect. So I think it's going to pair nicely with the front court that they've got that stayed. Adding in a couple pieces to the back court is going to be, I think, really good for Bruce Pearl this season.
Yeah, Auburn lost 41.8% of their scoring last season. That's not a huge drop off by any means, especially when you compare it to other SEC teams. But when you look at the players they lost, you lost Jalen Williams, who was 12.4 points per game. And then you lost Trey Donaldson and Aiden Holloway, who were both around 7 points a game they could get you. This is adding 13 points and helping you out a little bit. It's definitely an extra depth piece, depending on how these freshmen do, who's going to start or not out of that freshman class that Auburn's bringing in. So I'll be intrigued. I'll be very intrigued by this Auburn team next season.
Definitely. Well, David, we talked a lot about Chaz Lanier. He chose to go to Tennessee next season. One of the best transfers this offseason is going to be a Vol.
Yep, Tennessee native coming back to his home state to play for Barnes. He comes out of Nashville, is where he played his high school basketball. Extremely efficient scorer, and Tennessee certainly needed a guard to add to this team. Lehner put up nearly 20 points a game at Florida last year, or North Florida last year. He can light it up from three, which is something Tennessee could use now that they're losing Dalton Connect and Santiago Vescovi this offseason. And he's also pulled down around 5 rebounds a game. Now, he is currently going through the NBA draft process, and he has a few more days to pull his name out of the draft. But this is an extremely exciting pickup for the Vols. So you're just fingers crossed, hoping A, he comes out of the NBA draft for sure, which it looks like he's going to do, and B, that the jump from going from North Florida and playing in a much smaller conference and a low end, mid-major conference to the SEC isn't going to be too much of a jump. But I think he should do well.
Yeah, I think if I'm a Vols fan, I'm hoping that we see something similar with Dalton Connect. Had a fantastic career at his previous school and just kind of catapults when he's under the right coaching staff and has the right people around him. Like you said, I think it's going to be a great ad for the Vols, especially with them losing such big numbers in Connect and Vescovi. But I think this could be a possible front runner for one of their top scorers this next season.
And certainly somebody who's already getting NBA attention already. And we saw how much the jump was from Dalton Connect going from Northern Colorado, coming to Tennessee last year and becoming a superstar. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but this is certainly a talent who could find his way next season in what's going to be a very strong NBA draft into the back half of the first round or the front of the second round. That's very possible for Chaz Lanier coming into, a year from now when we're sitting here talking about who are the guys who are NBA draft prospects. We could very easily be talking about Chaz Lanier being one of the best transfer players in the SEC, making their jump to the next level.
Yeah, another player coming into the SEC. We've got a senior guard coming out of Michigan State. AJ Hoggard will add some skill to Byington's new program coming into Vandy. While he's not a consistent scoring threat, he can get some buckets when you need them. What to watch if you're a Vandy fan from Hoggard is the threat as an assist man, averaging 5.2 per game. After 4 seasons with the Spartans, he's definitely going to add some much-needed experience to this new Vandy squad.
And a player who's played for a Hall of Fame coach, someone who definitely knows the game of basketball and is getting the most out of a player. This guy's been having some good coaching over his career at Michigan State. This is a massive grab for Vanderbilt. Mark Byington has his second top 150 player for this team next season for the Commodores. Certainly brings much more optimism for next season than what was going on with Stackhouse last season. Honestly, my standards for Vanderbilt have already increased just by looking at this roster compared to the jump from year to year here. This is big. We talked about Hoggard a lot during March this year. During our first episode for the first weekend, he was an all Big Ten selection last year and someone that can get out there and make a huge impact on next year's team. Instant starter. He's a great guard, good center of gravity style player, decent shooter. This pickup can certainly set the tone for the future of Vanderbilt basketball under Byington. This is a great foundational pickup. I like this a lot for the Commodores, and this is one of the biggest moves I think has happened so far this offseason. Not just because of Hoggard being a good basketball player, just what it means for the future of Vanderbilt right now. Because you've got Edwards and Hoggard who should be able to make a big impact on this Vanderbilt team next season. My brain just said, I don't think you got, yeah, it was Jason Edwards. Yeah, I'm right. Jason Edwards and AJ Hoggard, both top 150 players coming into Vanderbilt. That's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure a lot of Doors fans are really excited about this get. Like you said, brings a lot more excitement to this program. That really wasn't there at the end of the season this year. After that run with Coach Stackhouse trying to make it to the NCAA tournament, I think everybody kind of lost their hope. And then you get Byington, and then he starts pulling these players that are near the top of the list for transfers. So you got to look at this as a solid impact on this team moving forward. If not to, have a great season this year and a much improved season this year, to at least point the arrow in the right direction.
Yeah, moving the arrow in the right direction. Look, I don't know if they're going to make the NCAA tournament next year. I don't know if they're going to make the NIT next year because, I mean, honestly, the SEC is going to be really deep and it's going to be really tough to pick up wins on a week in and week out basis. But maybe you can perform. Maybe you can make it competitive. But anything else, let me tell you what it's going to be next year. It's going to be fun. Like that's going to be great. And that brings optimism to a program. And that's going to want to attract more players to your program. And, with the NIL funding, if it's coming in there and helping Vanderbilt out, this is a great setup. This is a great first step for Vanderbilt fans to really take the next step as you're talking about. Going in that needle in the right direction you're looking forward to because there's optimism now returning to Nashville about what the future can be. And this is a great pickup that just says it all. We got a high quality player coming in. We got two high quality players coming in. We're going to be a good team. We're going to be competitive. And it's going to be fun to watch basketball in Memorial next season. So today I wanted to wrap up the show. Yes, this is a short one. Like I said, I'm starting the bar. But today I wanted to wrap up the show talking about Bill Walton. Today we learned that Hall of Fame basketball legend Bill Walton passed away at the age of 71. Walton was one of basketball's most colorful personalities. He was the #1 pick in the NBA draft in 1974, won an NBA championship, won league MVP. Me and Maddie went to the College Basketball Hall of Fame, saw him posted up in there and everything else as one of the best players of all time. He has ties to some of the biggest names in the game, including Larry Bird and John Wooden. He won 2 national championships and was an All-American at UCLA. He also was a basketball analyst on ESPN, primarily covering the Pac-12 games. You may have heard him say some crazy and wild things late on Saturday night. He would talk about basketball while also talking about anything but basketball. Love him or hate him, you knew when you were listening to a Bill Walton game on the color commentating side on ESPN. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said this in a statement. Bill Walton was truly one of a kind. Agreed. As a Hall of Fame player, he redefined the center position. His unique all-around skills made him a dominant force at UCLA and led to an NBA regular season and Finals MVP, two NBA championships, and a spot in the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. Today, I told my wife about Walton's passing, and I told her what Bill Walton meant to me. And she told me that in a time of loss, friends and family normally want to hear about the impact their loved ones made on someone. I didn't know Bill Walton, and I'm not going to pretend that I did, but I have a college basketball podcast, so I'm going to share. I loved Bill Walton. I always listened to him call games, but I became much more in tune with Bill Walton calling games during the time I was applying for law school. It was during a Oregon game, and he was talking about something to do with the importance of beavers in Oregon's forests and environments. It was one of the most erroneous rants during a college basketball game I'd ever heard in my life. Like, I know people on Twitter, and I saw them on Twitter were just like, just talk about the game. What is this? But to me, I was studying for the LSAT at that time, and it was 3 to 4 hours a night. And just hearing Bill Walton made me laugh while putting logical interpretation part of my brain to the maximum. So it was nice to hear, and I kept listening to Bill Walton during law school. I even followed a Twitter account that kept up with what games and what time Bill Walton was color commentating a game. While I was going through one of my most stressful and mentally taxing times in my life, Bill Walton would be on my TV talking about legalization of marijuana, quacking at the Oregon Ducks, talking about random musical instruments, or talking about how the Pac-12 was the best conference in college sports. I probably wrote my entire legal opinion on Reed versus Goertz and Section 1983 claims while listening to Bill Walton call UCLA and USC games. I listened to him a ton during that time. He was funny. He was wild. He was my favorite guy in a tie-dye t-shirt to call college basketball games. Bill Walton once said, basketball is one of those rare opportunities you can make a difference, not only for yourself, but for other people as well. He was my stress relief and someone I really enjoyed listening to and made me smile every day. So you did, Bill. Thank you very much. Maddie, I don't know how big of a Bill Walton fan you were. I know it made me smile every time I listened to him, but do you have any thoughts on Bill Walton?
Like you said, he was a legend, had huge impact, not just on college basketball, but on basketball all over, on those anniversary teams, 50 and 75th. I mean, to be that big of a staple, like you've got to make some change somewhere. So Bill Walton definitely had an impact, not only on basketball, but on the world around him. So definitely a legend that will be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. I put a link in the YouTube channel right now for some of Bill Walton's best moments if you were like me and just enjoyed the craziness. Um, there's also some great documentaries you can go out and listen to if you're interested in his impact in the NBA and college basketball. One of them is Lakers versus Celtics, the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, and I believe Ice Cube is the narrator in that one. He talks about his time playing for the Celtics and how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was one of the best players he ever played against. It's really a great documentary. But definitely, if you're into basketball and basketball history, Bill Walton's a name you needed to get to know. We got some older listeners here on this show. I've seen the demographics. I know who you are. If you have just some love for Bill Walton or anything like that, or a favorite Bill Walton memory commentating in a game, whatever, feel free to share them in the comments. We'd definitely love to have your input on that. Guys, if you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoop Southbound show. We would greatly appreciate it. Next week, like we talked about, we'll be talking a little bit of NBA basketball. It's going to be decision day, so we're going to do our decision day recap, look at this stuff, and as we get all this stuff put together, last season we did a power ranking on decision day. Maddie, are you interested in doing a power ranking for decision day?
Let's do it.
Oh, here we go. All right. So after decision day, we will be back. We'll do our power ranking. We'll do a little bit NBA draft, and we'll try to put everything together. So if you've not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoop Southbound show. Thank you guys for sticking out the week that we had to skip because I couldn't talk. But we will catch you guys next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.